Hello, everybody, and welcome to this lovely conversation, Divine Engineering with Mavis Karn. It's a real pleasure to be here today with you all and to have Mavis join us again in conversation. For those of you that don't know Mavis or maybe meeting Mavis for the first time, I just wanted to share a little bit about her because she is one special lady. Mavis has been sharing her insights and serving clients for 40 years successfully and serving individuals and groups. She has a private practice offering coaching, counseling, teaching, education, and consulting services. Her honesty and humble true north understanding of the principles is deeply and broadly respected by clients and colleagues globally. And she really does know marketing, which is what drew me to Mavis in the first place. You know, she sometimes tries to hide from the world, and yet the world keeps finding her. Working from her home office in Minnesota, she published The Myth of Peer Pressure and a well-known letter to juvenile inmates known as The Secret. So we're really pleased to have you here today, Mavis, and I'm excited to get the conversation going about divine engineering. I thought it might be helpful to start with a little conversation you and I had at the weekend. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
So as often when I speak with Mavis, I kind of come to the conversation serious and with some sort of problem that needs urgent attention. And within minutes, generally Mavis and I are in laughter and actually having fun with the conversation. And that was the case again on Saturday. I'd come to Mavis and I said, I was kind of being mourning for a number of years, this death of the high life that I think is somehow missing and somehow not available, and especially in lockdown, not being able to get out into the world and not being able to engage the high life, as it were. And Mavis said to me, well, could you tell me what the high life means to you, Grace? And I was kind of rattling off the usual stuff. Well, it's beautiful places and beauty and five-star hotels and luxury and style and having the best in life. I do not know what she said, but in returning me to my own, or reminding me of my own divine engineering, what occurred to me and what occurred between us was that the high life has a new definition. And that high life is in fact a higher level of consciousness. And that is the space that I tend to fall into with Mavis when I speak with her. You know, she takes all of us higher, and she doesn't even know she's doing it. But at least for me, she reminds me each time of that of how I'm made, and how remembering that just naturally takes us into an experience of a higher level of well-being, and in this case, a higher life. So I wanted to share that, Mavis, because that really touched me on Saturday, and it does speak to how clear you are on how beautifully made we all are. So just to start off here, can you share with us a little bit about divine engineering, and for those that really don't know what that is at this point?
As soon as I get recover from what you just said, I will do that. Well, that story is a great picture of divine engineering. It's like you came into our conversation seeing things one way, and in a split second, you saw something completely different that you'd never seen before. I didn't make you that way. You have that capacity, and all human beings have the capacity to have an insight, a look in to see something they'd never seen before. And it isn't that you tried to do that. It isn't that you looked up on your dashboard and see, okay, where are insights now? I got to plug that in and use that. It's like you had the ability built into you at any given moment to have a thought or an understanding come to you that didn't come from your brain, it came to it. I didn't put that capability into you. I didn't make you that well. I didn't divinely engineer you. We're all made with that capacity. We just didn't know it. So I asked a long, long time ago, many years ago, I wanted to know my purpose. I mean, other than cleaning my house and raising my kids and whatever, I wanted to know what I was here for. And so when there didn't seem to be anyone to ask about that, so one night before I went to sleep, I just asked the universe. I said, I want to know my purpose. And it's not like the universe got on it and sent me a telegram or something. It's just, I woke up, I didn't know anything I didn't know before. But not long after that, and I don't remember if it was hours or days or weeks. And I don't even remember what I was doing, but it came to me. I'm supposed to make the divine down to earth for people. And I heard that and I thought, how am I supposed to do that? And so there was another question for the universe, and they don't get on it in my timeline. It's like it just kind of shows up. And I realized at some point that that's kind of just what I've been doing anyway. That life doesn't seem like rocket science to me. It seems simple. It seems like common sense, and it kind of seems like, well, duh. And I'd often questioned that because I thought, well, it must be. I mean, there are people smarter than me that don't think it's that simple. And so I was kind of insecure about kind of hanging on to that. Well, what if it is? What if it's divinely simple? What if at the core of all the wisdom in the world, the core of all the religions, not the religious part, the core of it, that we are made in God's images, whatever God is to you. It's like we have everything we need. We are part of a perfect whole. When I look at creation, when I'm looking at, like, I love to watch nature shows and watch how bugs do this and trees do this, and it's like how everything kind of fits together. But somehow or other, we have thought we were separate from that. That somehow we were different from the rest of the whole. We're not. We are made of the same divine energy that all life comes from. The same thing. Like, do you remember Carl Sagan? He was an astronomer, scientist. He was just wonderful. He just explained kind of the unexplainable in really simple terms, and he was so joyous about it. He was just so kind of happy to be on the planet and tell us all about how it all works. And and how everything beyond the planet may work, it may not. He didn't know, but he was so excited about it. He was such a good example of being of that. Tell me what I don't know yet. And he has a quote that I just love. He said, "It turns out the universe is within us. We are made of star stuff." Now that's a simple explanation. It's like we're made of star stuff. And and literally, really, there was some research I just got the tail end of it not too long ago that talked about how it turns out there is dust from the stars on the planet, ergo it's in us too. And it's minerals and all kinds of stuff that's also on the earth, but it's in us. It's like we're made of star stuff. It's like, and what that includes is universal intelligence, not just personal intelligence. It's made up of memory that we've picked up. But we can know things we don't know we know. We can, for instance, let me just give you an example. If you're looking, like you're looking maybe at me right now, but if you wanted to look around you at something farther away from you, you have that intent. And as you have that intent and you turn your head, you change the aperture in the lens of your eye. Now, did you know you could do that? Tell me how you do that. Unless you are a whole lot smarter about how the eye's made than I am, you probably couldn't tell me that. But even if you could, it just proves the same thing. You have capabilities that you are using all the time that you don't know you have, but you also have capabilities that are available to you that you didn't know you have. And you don't even need to know you have those in order to to know you have those. You don't need to know the details of it, but you are using apps, capabilities all the time that you could not probably possibly explain to yourself. And I want you to know that it's important to know how divinely you are engineered, so that you're not walking around in the cocoon of belief that you are flawed, you are inadequate, you are not up to it, whatever it is, that you are not lacking anything, that you are constructed the way you're supposed to be constructed. That's taken care of. You don't have to spend your entire life trying to make yourself a better person. I know that might be a big shock, that you might consider yourself unfinished, or again, inadequate, or lacking in something that you need. Not true. So, what was the question?
I forget, but let's move on because this is really exciting. So, like, that's so refreshing and very radical. I suppose what comes to mind, just as you say that, Mavis, is, you know, how do we remember that in a world that continues to bombard us with the fact that we're not enough? And we've kind of trained our brains to compare ourselves and think if we just get that face product, then we'll be better. And if we just kind of lose this 10 pounds, or we make this amount of money, or, you know, like, so could you take us a step further with just how you really see this deeply? What if you don't? What if we don't?
Well, you do actually know. You may not know you know, but you do. You know what I know. I wasn't given this special information that nobody else got. I just, 40 some years ago, I just learned the best information I'd ever learned in my life, that part of which I just told you. But part of that is knowing that us human beings, all of us, there aren't any exceptions to this, us human beings are walking around 24/7 creating our own reality, creating our own take on the moment. We are not experiencing what's going on in the world. We are experiencing our thoughts about what's going on in the world outside of us. Those things are all happening. Everything's happening. But our experience is coming from the meaning we're making of it, with our thinking and with our senses that make our thinking look real to us. So reality is whatever we're thinking that looks real to us. Now that, I don't know about you, but 40 years ago when I heard that, I thought the top of my head was going to come off, because I knew that was true. But I also had all this thinking that said it wasn't. So I had many months of wrestling with my own head, trying to find an exception to the fact that I was always feeling my thinking. I knew there must be an exception there somewhere. I kept digging and coming up with what I thought were exceptions, like, well, what if somebody close to you dies? That's not just your thinking. They died. You don't have them anymore. They're gone. That's not just your thinking. Well, it's true, they died. They're gone wherever. You don't have them in the way that you had them before. That's true. But the meaning you make of that is your reality. It's just your reality. And your reality, if it's ever happened that you've lost someone close to you, you know then that there are times when you experience that. It's just devastating, so sad. And there are times when, depending on the circumstances, there's a certain amount of relief to it because the person was suffering unbearably. Or maybe there are times when there's a sweet sadness about it, that you know they're gone, and somehow that was inevitable because maybe they're really old and they're tired and they're kind of worn out, but you have a lot of wonderful memories of them, and you're so grateful for that the sadness is mixed with sweetness. So how do we explain that we can feel all of those about the same happening? And not everybody feels any of those. They may feel different things. So if people don't feel the exact same way about that all the time, then it has to be something that we're doing. And that something is the meaning we're making of it is creating the reality we're experiencing in that moment. And when that dawns on us, when we really see the truth of that, our whole life moves to higher ground. And the deeper we see that, the more we know it, because we do know it, the more we know it, the less hopelessness we ever feel about anything. Doesn't mean that we don't from time to time, but we know better now. That genie's out of the bottle. We know it's got something to do with our thinking. We know it.
Yeah, there's a real freedom that comes. You know, you're talking about higher ground, Mavis. Just going back to that insight from Saturday, you know, that ultimate definition of the high life, just that higher ground, not needing the external to be a certain way for us to be okay and to enjoy it. So I really appreciate that. I'm wondering at this stage if anyone has a question, because of course I could ask lots of questions to Mavis, but if you did have a question, you'd be very welcome. You'd be very welcome to, maybe best to just raise your hand. Sorry to be a school teacher about it, but there's a number of you and I can't see both screens. But if you raise your hand, I'd love to hear your question and bring you on. That should work. Let's just give it a little minute here.
Well, I should tell you that I love questions, but I also am perfectly willing to say I don't know if I don't know. So yeah, I just thought I'd add that.
All right, well, raise your hand if you want to come on. I'd love to have you on. In the meantime, Mavis, what occurs to me to ask or just have you speak about a little bit more deeply is, you know, us understanding our divine engineering. Can you speak a little bit as to how that relates to humans not hurting one another, how that relates to humans taking better care of themselves and one another?
Well, I think the bottom line is that you learn how amazingly reliable our makeup is, that our senses are on our side, all of our senses. It's like if you didn't have the guidance of all your senses, you would not know when to take your hand off a hot stove. You would not know whether something that you just put in your mouth was spoiled or not. You would not know how to walk, because you would not have senses to tell you when your feet hit the ground, whether the ground was soft or hard or rough or wet or icy or going uphill or downhill. You would have nothing to tell you how to use your legs and feet. There would be no guidance whatsoever. And that's just a couple of things. As far as psychological goes, your emotions are letting you know the quality of the experience you are creating with your thinking 24/7. They're not like, I mean, you may have some friends that are so close to you and know you so well that they can tell you when you're a little off. At least when they're with you, they can. But they aren't as accurate or as reliable or with you 24/7 as your own emotions are. You have no wrong emotions. They are always telling you, this is the way it feels to think the way you're thinking. So if you are thinking the only thing that's going to end this argument is if you punch somebody in the face, there's something telling you you're a little off here. The way you're thinking, it feels like this. If you are someone who believes that someone with more pigment in their skin than you have is a lesser human being, there's something telling you you're off. It feels like arrogance. It feels like insecurity. It feels like a need to feel better than someone else. It's fear. It's insecurity. It's resentment, it's anger, it's all kinds of stuff. But there's somebody there, something there that tells you, don't believe everything you think. The way you're thinking right now feels like this. It is your fears, your anxiety, your insecurity, your anger, your frustration, all of that is guidance. It's not the enemy. And it's all some sort of fear. Fear is just the love of the universe in disguise. It's just saying the way you're using your thinking right now is not useful. Even if it's thinking you don't even know you're doing, which is 90% of it. I didn't used to know that. I thought I always knew what I was thinking. Turns out less than 10% of the thinking that we do could we say what it is. But we're always thinking, and we're always feeling our thinking. Always, always. Now that is divine engineering, that we are never left alone with the gift of free will. That there's always a sensation, a physical sensation, otherwise known as an emotion, that's letting us know how we're using free will. Don't you think that's remarkable? That we are made with that much love? Oh, we need to know that. We need to know that and respect what went into our creation, what went into all creation. It's like the pandemic. There aren't two human beings on the planet, I can guarantee you, that are experiencing this in exactly the same way. So if we don't go any further than that, we can see the pandemic isn't creating our thinking. The pandemic is a pandemic. It's happening. But our experience of it is coming from how we're thinking of it, the meaning we're making of it at any given moment. I've probably experienced everything everybody else is feeling. Like, oh my God. And okay, for now I'm in my house, I'm safe, I'm fortunate I have a house, I'm fortunate that I can wear a mask, I'm fortunate. And sometimes I go back into panic. Sometimes I have, oh my God, thoughts. But lucky me, lucky me, I know that I'm feeling my thinking. And I'm not always going to feel the way I'm thinking right now. It could change in a split second. I may choose to, without knowing I'm choosing, I may choose to create a bunch of suffering for a few hours or a few days. And I have done that. And I'm probably not done doing that. I'm not perfect at this, not by a long shot. But I'm so grateful. I understand that I am in charge of the experience I'm having, even when I forget it. I don't have much tolerance for misery anymore because I know it's self-created. But that doesn't mean that I don't occasionally forget that for a period of time. I just can't keep it going for as long as I used to. And I'm made of the same star stuff as all of you. All of you. There are no exceptions.
So
we have a couple of questions coming in, Mavis. Can we go there? Kajal, would you like to come on?
Hi, Mavis. Lovely to hear you again. Could you please speak so I can see you on the screen?
Here I am.
Hi. I heard you speak last week, Mavis, at another group. And in that conversation, you spoke about the space between thoughts, the gap between thoughts. And I was wondering, in the Eastern culture where I come from, a lot of emphasis is given to that state of no mind, of no thought. And even when masters speak, they speak deliberately slowly so that there is a gap between their words where the mind goes into no thought. And I was wondering, the deep feelings that we have, are they a product of no thought, or are deep feelings of love, gratitude, compassion, kindness, generosity, is it thinking, or is it a product of no thought, the gap between thoughts? And I wonder if you can speak to that, please.
What an awesome question. I don't exactly know, but I know. It's like when I'm right now, I have no idea what the next thought I have is going to come out of my mouth. I have no idea. I have no plan. But I know that when I'm in that state of mind, I'm not talking about personal intellect. I'm not talking from that. I am talking from universal intelligence. My personal intelligence is not good enough for much of anything, but that universal intelligence that we're made of has no personal thought. But it used, for instance, in my personal intelligence, in my brain is stored the English language, so that when I say whatever I'm saying from that deeper understanding, and it really, I don't know anything else to call it except love. Not personal affection, but love. When I'm coming from there, that understanding takes English and uses it so I can express love. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know what your teachers would make of that. I suspect we're on the same page in some way or other. But when we're not busy overthinking everything, we can feel what we know. We can feel what we know. And that feels like it's a great app. Is that?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Mavis. That's beautiful.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Lovely. We have Etta. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Etta, would you like to come on?
Thank you. Hi, Mavis.
Hi, Etta.
Hello. I feel like a bit of a renegade for even airing this, but I could suffer. I could suffer for, the planet, really. And I love the place of peace. But I have this mind that will then nag me and say, it's all very well you sitting there enjoying your place of peace, but how is that going to stop world poverty, children with no fresh water, corrupt politicians, bullying in the workplace, immigrants being killed in the English Channel because we're too mean to take them in? And the question I have for you is it enough for us as individuals just to be in a place of peace? And almost bliss, let's face it, when we are in that place. You know, I start off every day so happy and content, and my life is very simple. I don't have great riches, and I've never been happier. It's lovely. And then I'll read a news headline, and I'm effing and blinding like a fishwife about politicians and corruption and cronyism and all the rest of it. And off I go. And I don't know how to translate what I call the nice place into some kind of positive action to solve some of these injustices, which are created by my thought. But there are injustices out there. So I don't know how to discern what we can actually do something about and what is just suffering created by thought. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It's an awesome question.
Bless your heart.
When I talk about being in that coming from love and calm and peace, that's not passive. When my mind or anybody's mind calms down and we're clear-headed, there is a calm determination available to us where we do the right thing. We do the right thing. And that's powerful. We do we see it as ahead of us. We see it, we do it. And amazing things are done from that place. We're not just sitting around watching TV and eating chocolate.
Suffering.
Or suffering, yeah. It's righteous indignation is kind of just noise. Calming down and seeing the right next step. That is powerful. It's powerful. And you're not trying to be powerful. You're just being yourself. You're being who you really are. You do the right thing. And it can seem like a little thing. Nothing done from that deep, natural, common sense place of love is wasted.
I love that distinction. I really do.
It's the difference between way overthinking something and being reactive versus responding from who we really are. We are unbeatable then. And we've all had times when we acted from there. We all have. We just didn't know what that was because it just seemed like common sense. But you want to respect that. That is powerful. That's the answer to everything that's going wrong. It's as simple as wear a mask and keep your distance. Because you're coming from love for yourself and your fellow man. Period. It's not rocket science.
It's really helpful there. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
You knew it, didn't you?
I can just feel the difference.
Yeah. You knew it. Yeah. You know what I know.
I can see when I behave like that as opposed to snarking on Twitter and how much more helpful it's been to do.
If that worked, I'll be happy as a clam.
Yeah. Thank you, Mavis. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Thanks for asking that, Etta.
Thank you.
Awesome question.
Love to bring Kathy on, Mavis. Kathy's raised her hand.
Great.
Etta and Mavis, the conversation that you just had is really, really important. And what I'm thinking has to do with how when we are in what you're calling a peaceful state of mind, and we're made of star stuff, we have a flow of wisdom, of helpful ideas, if we will. And we live in a world that is just totally rich with opportunities for conflict and differences everywhere we turn. And we have, in a sense, a scale of, on one hand, we can respond with rage if we're not in that peaceful place, or we can respond from a place of resolve if we're in a more peaceful place. And I heard a little story in the last couple days from Jane Goodall, who is now 86. And someone asked her on the issue of climate change just a couple days ago, who are the world leaders that she would talk to in order to make her case for let's get organized and do what we need to save the planet. And she said, well, I know that we need to be able to talk to people at their heart level. And there are some world leaders, she was very specific, I won't be, who would not listen. And there are others who I know are a bit more open, a bit more ready for me to speak to that heart within the other person. And she gave examples of what she would say to one leader and why she would not even attempt to speak to the other, because she said the other will not even listen. So I would decline an opportunity to speak to that individual. But with the other, I have differences. There are things I would want him to do, but I do believe he's done some good things. And I will start by talking about that, coming from a place, where she's coming from, let's call it appreciation at this point, and then present what she wanted to. And when you and I think about what do we do in our own world, this business of coming from a place of love, coming from a place of quiet, so that our own wisdom surfaces and guides me how to talk to my relative, how to talk to my neighbor, how to talk to my political leader. That's what makes the difference. But you have the option to say, I know enough to not relate to someone at all because they are not listening, will not listen, and maybe have never even experienced in their own life this tremendous linkage that Mavis is talking about between love and the other person, the peace of mind and the insights that come. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Jane Goodall is talking the same things we are, but it's coming from her life experience. And she said, you just have to relate to people from your heart. And she also talked about being in situations where she was hearing new information about, let's say, the dangers in the climate and the effect on the animal population she had worked with. And she said, it just came to me. I knew in that moment what I needed to do. She was being at some conference. That's her own wisdom surfacing. And interestingly, I've read that years and years ago, when she was a college student in England, she actually took some courses that were about the same thing that Mavis is talking about. She called it circling thought. There were other words for it. You see, it's really important what Mavis is describing, because that peace, that quiet place is what allows that knowing or that wisdom to show up. And I can envision, Etta, in your personal situation, it's going to work just like that. So that's it. Thank you.
Kathy?
Yeah.
Would you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Kathy Marshall Emerson. I'm from Minnesota, and Mavis has been a colleague and friend of mine for a very long time. And I don't know, what do you want me to say, Mavis?
I want you to tell them where you've been and what you've been doing for a long time.
I had the opportunity to learn the same understanding, the principles that Mavis is talking about when I was about 45 years old. I'm 75 now. And it totally changed my life, because I went from being a really intellectual, hardworking, good student, good worker, all of that, but always living with a fairly delicate balance between being stressed and not stressed. I was at the University of Minnesota, created something called the National Resilience Resource Center, and through that have offered a variety of trainings in various places, mostly in the US. And it's, I guess an example is this morning, I was online being coached by someone from the university to convert my spirituality and resilience class to an online format that can be offered globally starting in January. And talk about a busy head. You notice the teaching style that Mavis has here. It's very in the moment. It's very grounded in what she has lived and experienced and shared. And then you start having to put it in an online form and squeeze it inside of certain software programs. And I'm wanting to fight for this kind of conversation, which is what I will do with the students. But I have to go through the hoops to turn it technologically into something that fits what the university needs to do in order to offer it to students. So it's been life-changing for me. I could tell you stories, but one of the fun things, you talk about an insight or an accidental thing. I met you, Grace, online some time ago. I'm going to say it was within the last year, and it was all just over a tiny little thing. And I ended up being able to say to her, would you like to meet Mavis? Because she was aware of something Mavis had written. And then that just absolutely led to an incredible surge of things that the two of you have done. And Mavis, if you remember a lunch a long time ago, a really long time ago, we were sitting together, and she kind of, I don't want to break your confidence, but she kind of said, she said her age, and she said, how could I still be of service? And I said, I think we need to make a video. And then it kind of went from there. Well, it turned out Grace became the vehicle for making the videos. So life goes in good, funny ways. And, amazingly, we're all using this understanding to live in the most divided, conflict-filled, dangerous world plagued with pandemic. And somehow we're sitting here laughing, There's that part of us in it all the time, too. So thank you, Grace.
Oh, that was beautiful, Kathy. It's so good to see you.
Thank you.
I think we have time for one more question. So I'm going to go to Nina. Would you like to come on, Nina?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm Nina from Norway. My English is not very well, but I will try. Thank you, Mavis, for speaking to us. It's so lovely to listen to you.
Thank you.
I have a question, and it might come out of curiosity and maybe out of overthinking, but I take the risk. It's about the thinking and how we create our experiences through thinking. And I can see that I have, at least sometimes, I feel that I have the free will to choose which thought I'm gonna give focus. Not very often, but more and more I can see I have a choice sometimes, but other times doesn't feel that I have the choice to make another or to have another focus that I've really caught up in. And then I can be wondering, why do I have this thought? And do I attract certain thoughts? And are every thought an invitation for me to see something more? Do you understand my question, where I want to go? Could you please answer?
Yeah, got it.
Thank you.
Well, you've been doing what I used to do, and I can tell you from a long time trying to do that, it's not going to work. So you don't have to take my word for that, but it's really not about trying to find the right thought. It's about noticing how you feel. Because your feelings, your emotions are always letting you know the quality of the thinking you're doing. They're not telling you what you're thinking. It's kind of none of our business what we were thinking. The question is, how do you want to feel? Do you want to be present and alive and aware? Or do you want to be busy-headed and analyzing and diagnosing and processing? I know what I want. I want to be present. I don't want to miss anything. And the thing about being present is that you're in the only time frame that you can ever do anything about. Now. And since it's always now, that's as big a bite as you ever have to take. How do you feel? How do you want to feel? The past doesn't exist. It's stored thought. It doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. Have you ever noticed that it's absolutely never shown up in your whole life? And except we keep trying to work on it. And it doesn't even exist. But now, and it's always now. How do you want to feel? Never mind what you were thinking and why you were thinking it. It doesn't matter. Now, let what you need to know come to you. You don't want to be chasing it around in your brain. It's just exhausting and it doesn't work. Did you ever notice, just this little simple thing, did you ever notice how, say you've forgotten somebody's name and you keep trying to use all these remembering name tricks and nothing happens. So you just go, well, forget it. Within minutes, the name pops into your head. How do you explain that? It's like you got out of the way, your head cleared, and what you needed came to you. Now that's either gonna, what you need coming to you is either gonna come from your memory or it's gonna come to your brain from the great unknown. Now that's so simple, it'll never work, right? But what if that's why it works? quit trying to figure something out so that you can understand it. Like the work that Kathy's doing, trying to fit kind of common sense and from your heart teaching into a little university box. She's going to do it. And in the end, she's probably not even going to know how she did it, but she's going to do it. It'll come to her because she's really smart. I'm talking about you like you're not here, Kathy. She's really, really smart, but she has also learned to trust that what she needs to know will come to her. And she's going to put those things together and she's going to figure it out. And she's going to look back and go, how did I do that? That was cool. And we all have that ability. But there's no need to track down your thinking, to try to figure out why you thought that and who taught you that and what's wrong with that and why, and try to find a better thought. I'm just, I don't actually want you to take my word for that, but consider the possibility that that will never work. I just turned, week and a half ago, I just turned 81. And I'm telling you that because I want you to know that I learned this information 40 some years ago, but also for 40 years, I tried what didn't work. So I have some experience with what didn't work. I just want you to know that's my credentials. I have 40 years of doing stuff that didn't work. Does that help?
Yes, it's lovely.
Say hello to your beautiful country. I have all kinds of relatives that live there.
Oh, you have? Oh,
yeah.
Nice. Where in Norway do you have your relatives?
Ålesund and Oslo.
Ålesund?
Yeah.
Ah. Yeah.
I wave to Norway.
Norway are greeting you.
Another Norway. All right.
Thank you very much. Lovely.
You're welcome.
Oh, fabulous questions. Thank you, everyone who's been sharing. And at this point, we'll come to a close, Mavis, but I'd like to just share with the group that I'm going to be continuing these conversations with Mavis on a monthly basis. So Mavis and I are going to meet together with a group on the first Wednesday of each month. And if you'd be interested in participating in that group and being more in conversation with Mavis and being pointed back to your own divine engineering and anything that you heard that is helpful to you today, get in touch. We will run this group for 7 sessions between December and June, and they'll run for 90 minutes at a time, so lots of space and time for questions. And our experience so far of running a group has been that it goes deep and great connections are formed, incredible insights are developed and seen. So if that interests you, do get in touch. We're looking at charging $497 for that experience, and we have about 10 spaces left. So you can email me on gracefulcoaching@gmail.com if you would like to get on board, if you'd like a little bit more info. Mavis, is there anything you'd like to close with today?
Oh, this is just such a an honor to just pass on the best information I ever got to people that are interested, as far as I can tell, on living on higher ground, which is just another way of saying being who we are. You already are magnificent. And I hope you can see the divine science behind that. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. You can unmute if you like, everybody, and say goodbye.
Bye-bye.